Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, everybody. We want to welcome you back to this episode of the Life Success Legacy Podcast. I'm Chris Bay, joined by two Mikes today. Got Michael Crawford and Mike Everett. Hi, gentlemen. How are you today?
Hello
Hey,
there.
hey.
Good to see both of you. We've been away from each other a little bit here. Mike Everett's been doing some world traveling. You want to update folks on your explorations?
Went down to Colombia, South America, to not just buy coffee, but to get stem cells shot into my body. And it was an experience. I'm just telling you, less than 2 to 3% of the people in Colombia speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a minor communication gap, but it did not stop me from a tremendous amount of humor. Oh, in fact, I'll just give a quick story. They did 3 shots up in my shoulder, where you absolutely know that this is where all my problems been.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 2, they did a little local. They shot this 3-inch needle down in my shoulder. And the first 2, no big deal. He shot the 3rd one back in there, and I looked at him and I said, "Oh, doctor, I'd like to do this to you." And one of the staff members understood what I said. I didn't think she was going to stop laughing, but
Oh my gosh.
it was really funny. So that was 50 million stem cells in my shoulder.
Sheesh.
Wow.
Then I did a full body IV of 200 million.
Mm-hmm.
They said that the first hour was not going to be a big deal. After 2 hours, it's going to seem like I got whacked with a hammer.
Yeah.
They were not kidding.
It was a sledgehammer.
It was a big old sledgehammer. I'm telling you what. In the first hour, it felt like I'd gone down to the gas station and just gotten my shoulder completely aired up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it didn't get giant, but my skin was just
Tight.
I mean, it was tight.
Yeah.
About at the 4-hour mark, no good. But after
bueno.
about 2.5, no bueno is it. Yeah, after about 2 days, I finally got to roll on. I sleep on my left side. Not the first 2 days.
No, I bet not.
Yeah, first night 3 hours and 45 minutes of sleep.
Yeah.
The next night was a solid sleep, but then, boy, from then on, it's a straight 8. So excited to be home. And of course, here's the catch to the whole story. I have 2 funny things. Number 1, they said, you need to take 2 weeks off. I go, no bueno. I said, I have 8:40 tea times on Monday when I get back. And they go, no. I go, yeah. And then the doctor, after all of this, because I'm, as you can only imagine, I'm having fun during this whole thing. He goes, Mr. Michael, you good patient. So it was fun. It was painful at times, but they said 3 to 5 months, I'll know more.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fun part of it was, while we were there, I thought, well, we're there. I scheduled Linda for stem cells too. While we were there. Oh yeah, like on Tuesday afternoon, we got back to the hotel. I go, we might as well do you. So I made one phone call. 15 minutes later, I'm doing mine Wednesday. Linda's doing her Thursday.
Oh wow.
We came home Friday and Saturday. Back to Miami Friday. Back to Lawrence on Saturday.
Oh my.
So, but here's the fun part. Linda's had arthritis in all of her fingers.
Mm-hmm.
All of her fingers. 2 hours. 2 hours. She's going, honey, I can't explain it. She says, I have no pain in my hands right now. Her ring just her ring is like on and off of there without any situation. So
Wow.
I would do it again. I would do it again.
Wow.
So, okay, enough about me.
Well,
Let me tell you
we'd
about
love to
myself.
welcome our listeners to the Life Success Legacy International Health channel. Stories
Oh.
told by Mike Everett.
Yeah.
We cover all things, sump pumps, injections in Colombia, you name it.
Yeah.
Oh man, out of control, Everett.
So, gentlemen, have you guys ever heard? I'm priming the pump here because we
Let's
actually
do it.
had a recent question asked, and this person said, you know, a friend told me that I could get whole life cash value insurance for way cheaper. So this is someone who was going through our process and was talking to a friend. You know how it is, right? The water cooler conversations or whatever it is, and was talking with a friend, and this friend said, "Oh, you can get whole life cash value insurance for way cheaper." And that is not an uncommon. In fact, I'll just very quickly say, yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
You
Absolutely.
absolutely can. It comes back to what is your purpose? What is the why, right? And those things get very fuzzy and confused. So let's unpack that a little bit. First of all, we talk about the noise a lot. Nelson talked about the noise a lot. There's a lot of information out there. And so very quickly, we want to say, yes, you can get whole life cash value life insurance for way cheaper. And Nelson knew that, Mike, right? He even talked about it in Becoming Your Own Banker in his own life experience. He was going through a difficult time in his life.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if you can remind our listeners about what Nelson was going through and what he realized, his revelation.
Well, by the time all of this kind of whacked him around the head, he said, you know what? Everything I needed was right in front of me. He realized he needed to increase his premiums, but he realized that all of the debt that he had stored up enough cash values that were available against his policies to pay off close to $500,000 in debt.
Yeah.
So there was a realization that even in the midst of all of that, he realized that number one, he wasn't paying high enough premiums. But number two, he wasn't utilizing the system that he had already put in place. And keep in mind, he truly hadn't discovered how to design and how to implement the infinite banking concept at the time, which was, the revelation was just unbelievable. And, you know, when he realized that he needed to increase his premiums, that goes against what you just said. Oh, I can get whole life insurance for way cheaper.
Yeah. Well,
so go ahead.
It's page 21, creating your own banking system through dividend-paying life insurance. If you go to the end of that chapter, talks about how the young man he discusses in the chapter about, you know, needing insurance to cover his family, puts $50 per month into his life insurance premiums and feels that he is insurance poor. Fast forward through the chapter, he says if the agent knew what they were doing, they would increase that to at least $250, if not even $275 a month, because the extra dollars will go into his policy to increase the capital that he can lend or that he can use for other parties or for other uses. And so, you know, I think we have an extreme misconception, and a lot of it's the noise, which I'm sure Chris is going to get to, but, you know, we have an extreme misconception of how whole life insurance works and what its benefits can and should be.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that noise. You know, Crawford, when we're working on a well, let me first start. Nelson, I'm on page 13 where he's telling his story. And he says, okay, it becomes evident to me that I needed to increase my life insurance premiums dramatically to create a pool of cash from which to borrow to pay off the bankers that I owed. And he says, but I owed $500,000. How could I do both? We had that question every single week.
Yeah.
Every day.
How can
Yeah.
you do both? Honest introspection revealed that I could revise my spending pattern, and this was a starting place. I want to pause right there. Some people that we work with do come to the place where they say, oh, I need to revise my spending pattern.
Yep.
However, when we are designing strategies, we go at it from a position of, we're not asking you to change your spending pattern at all. We just simply want to redirect those dollars in a more efficient way. So Crawford, when we're looking at the activators, the inputs, and we're getting ready, and people have been listening to the noise, where are all the different places that they're sending money, and yet they are fighting the wind current?
Well, I mean, first of all, the software we built intentionally doesn't even ask for their normal spending stuff, right? We don't ask about that because we don't care. That's your business. And we may have discussions with you, but we don't care about that because our goal is to create a plan that will work for you or your family without changing those spending habits, without having to change your lifestyle. And Chris, you've told your story about how you and Sean had to change your lifestyle using the previous plan that you guys had used for 7 or 8 years. Yeah. And you never got to have vacations and ate a lot of ramen,
Yeah.
But your question was about how we figure out where money is going. And, this is the brilliance of our software in some ways is that it puts everything into one bucket, right? So we see all of the dollars that people are sending out the door to, different debts or servicing different loans or whatever it is. And then when we get to the strategy and it pulls all of the stuff together, we see all those overpayments, right? We see all the dollars that people are, I was told if I send an extra $20 a month or $30 a month to that credit card, they'll pay out faster, which mathematically is true. However, we're only getting a single use out of that dollar and it's just going in the back pocket of the creditors, right? Whereas, what we're trying to teach them, like you said, is a better way to efficiently use those dollars. But we're also seeing people dumping, a ton of money into, outside investment plans, which again, totally okay. We just think that you should run it through your system first before you go into those investment, opportunities, because you get multiple uses of those dollars, which we've probably got 13 podcasts that talk about that,
At least
in a good way,
Yeah. So for me, and people have heard my story, but I want to apply it to this situation. When Mike Everett was putting together plans for us and teaching us this concept, I've mentioned I was making, as a school principal after 20 some years, I was making $80,000 a year gross,
right,
for a family of 4, and we were single income. And we actually borrowed from the equity in our home to start our policies. If I had the mindset of I could get whole life insurance with cash value way cheaper, let's play that scenario out. If I did buy that, what I'm doing is I'm breaking the second principle that Nelson teaches, and that is capitalize your system generously. So if I was putting less in, doesn't that mean I'm going to have less availability to leverage?
That's exactly what it means.
So I still would have been fighting the wind current over here, but man, I'm saving on that whole life insurance. Now, having the insurance for my family is fantastic. That's great.
Absolutely.
I want to have whole life. But if I look at it as a bill rather than a deposit, I'm going to cheat my system. So it's completely a mindset shift.
I'm going to throw this out because that would have been 2010 or 11.
Yep.
This is 2024. How much have we learned since you started your plan?
Well, I can speak for myself. I've learned a ton.
I have too. In fact, our learning, our education as IBC practitioners has skyrocketed. And I'm going to go back to that day that you said, I want to do $50,000 worth of premiums. Did I recommend
For the
that?
record, Mike Everett was not recommending that much in premium.
And now all of a sudden, I would jump in head first and go, if you've got that kind of cash and you've got that kind of equity available, I would say go all in. And of course, in the webinar, think long-term, capitalize generously. So if you want a little out of your system, put a little into it. If you want a lot out of your system, put a lot into it.
Yep.
I know that just sounds crazy, but yet it has everything to do with the design, not the cost, the design and how we teach people how to utilize their cash flow, the headwind.
Yeah.
The headwind is giant. If you pay off the outside debt over here, should you continue to make that payment into your own system? It is a deposit. It's in your system. And if it's your system, do you get to utilize those dollars again?
As often as you want.
Bam! I'm telling you what, it is unbelievable.
Well, and Mike, to back up a little bit, to reiterate your point is that, in 2011, you didn't have software to help you like look at the long term, right? You were probably using some Excel or, whatever. And that's okay. That, I mean, at the time that was,
that's what we did.
What you had. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, just as our education as coaches and, practitioners has improved and our tools have improved, we've brought in team members that have such diverse thought processes and look at things in such a unique way that I think we have created this, system, not just our process, but a system in which we design our strategies for clients that I think is extremely effective. And it gets better all the time because we're continuing to learn alongside our clients.
Now, there are rare situations where someone may not be ready. And when we look at all their inputs and where their cash flow and all that is going, there sometimes can be rare situations where someone's not ready to start a whole life IBC style policy.
Yep.
But I will tell you, that percentage is extremely small. We actually like the challenge of seeing if we can make it work for someone. And we promise, we tell people all the time, we promise you, if this does not put you in a better position in the future than you are today, you should not do this.
100%.
That's it.
Right? We are blessed to be in a position where we're not starving for business, right? In fact, we're rather selective sometimes.
Which is great. Yeah, it really is great.
So when we get those tough situations where someone comes and they say, I just don't have the cash flow, I don't have the pool of money, I don't think that I could do this. We actually enjoy that challenge from time to time. That's kind of fun for us to figure out.
Absolutely.
So not all people are ready. And the other thing is these policies that we design, we'll just say it outright. It is the most expensive whole life insurance you could buy. And that is on purpose. We buy that for ourselves. Why is it the most expensive? Because we're trying to dump as much money in and get as little life insurance death benefit as we can for the money without crossing that modified endowment contract line. So yes, it is expensive for the amount of death benefit, but you have to ask yourself, what's the purpose? Why are you doing this? Is it purely for death benefit? And if you're needing additional death benefit, we have ways that we've talked about with convertible terms, et cetera, to address that. But your whole life policy is not, we're not trying to get the least expensive amount of whole life cash value policy for the least amount of premium.
I want to touch base on what you said right there. Early on in that you said, not everybody is ready. Why? It's because they haven't read. It's because they haven't educated. It's because they haven't researched and investigated IBC at the level that they need to make that kind of decision. Now, you did say not everybody is ready, and we agree with that. But I'm going to go back to the farmer's fence line. third, fourth generation of farmers have been driving that same tractor down that same fence line for 40, 50, 60 years. Is there a rut in the path? It's a giant rut. As a customer, as a client, as a potential IBC researcher, those ruts are sometimes so deep in their brain, they cannot make the shift. Yep. There's just no way to make that shift. And we get that. We were all there. I remember the first time I read the book, I go, oh, come on. It truly can't work this way. Mm-hmm. And then I read it again, and then I read it again, and then I used it as a bedtime story for Linda over a 2-week period. And I thought, holy cow, it does work this way. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, okay, so if there's a way that we can flow, that's a good word, flow the money into a system that we control and get rid of credit card debt, car debt, mortgage debt, or use it for investments. Mm-hmm. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's an awesome thing. But here's the awesome thing. I got death benefit. And the very, very worst thing that could happen is I die. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the system becomes self-sustaining. I have coached Linda exactly what to do the day I check out. It's an incredible opportunity for anybody and everybody, but the whole idea is to research and educate yourself about this crazy thing called the infinite banking concept.
So when a friend says to you, hey, you can get whole life cash value insurance for way cheaper, the answer is yes, you can. Yes, you can. You absolutely
can.
To our listeners, we want to thank you for joining us again. Check us out at lifesuccesslegacy.com. We have lots of learning resources there. Go back into the archives of our podcast if you're new to this. Go back to the very early ones. You can go through. Mike Crawford's done a great job with titles and topics. There's so much information out there if this is your learning style. If reading is your learning style, then we've got some books available. We've even done podcasts on what are the books that we recommend or read. So check us out. We've got some good resources for you. Keep plugging away in your learning. And if you're ready to talk with one of us, give us a shout. There's a contact us on our website, and we'd be happy to have a chat with you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you joining us. And to our listeners, we'll catch you next time.